Hey, everybody, welcome to another Practical Pet Chat. We've got a great topic that we're going to dive into. Lorin, it's great to see you.
Hey Rob, how's it going?
It is good. It is good. So, this one is really timely because this has come up recently, and I continue to see folks talking about it. People have been asking me to chime in. I'm sure they're asking you to chime in. But what would you do to extend the life of your pet? And in particular, the focus I want to go on, since it's the hot topic right now, is there's a lot of talk about potential, pharmaceuticals and drugs and pills that can be given to our pets to extend their life. I think, and let's just like take this part off the table. Of course, we all want to extend the lives of our pets because they're here for such a short period of time. So we can all set that aside. Any discussion is not about whether we want them to live longer or not. We'd all love that, but at what cost? So I'll let you chime in with your thoughts.
I hate the idea of a pill. First of all, anti-drug except under, really provable extreme situations. So I'll just put that disclaimer out there. But the cost factor, which is not a financial cost, that's what comes up in my mind. At what cost? So, and how any drug has this long list, I mean, pages of don't do with this and don't do with that and don't use with this and this wouldn't be appropriate. And if you have this, and this, death might result and those kinds of things. So I can only think that there's got to be something similar here because it's pharmaceutical. But I just I find it really tough to think that that's the way to do it. Number one. And number two, you're talking to somebody whose last unfortunate loss was a dog that was 21.
Wow.
So I spend years extending the lives of my animals the hard way, which is through diet and through, holistic care and through, their environment and all kinds of things that are definitely the much harder way to do it. And isn't that the way it is though nowadays that everybody wants the quick fix? They want a pill, take a pill, it's Alice in Wonderland, take the blue pill for this and the red pill for that. And and that's the quick way to get to wherever the nirvana is that you want it to be, whether it's a weight loss drug or any of these other things. It's like the promise, the carrot on the stick is like, yeah, that's what I want, and that's how this will be marketed. We love our pets, I'm sure you do too. And if you really love your pet, get extendo life, or whatever it is. And I think of
Right. I love it.
Dark Mirror comes to mind. An episode of Dark Mirror comes to mind. Um, but those kinds of things that, gosh, I so want that, and it preys upon our emotions and our hearts, which are so tightly, entangled with our
Sure.
animals. And I hate the idea and everything about it. And it makes me want to deep dive as to what the potential issues are that are going to come from it.
All right. So I might shock you, but then again, I might not. Um, I love the idea.
Ah,
I'm worried though, similar to you, for a lot of different reasons, and that's why we're doing this episode, right? But I worry too because yes, will technology and pharmaceuticals get to that point someday? Maybe, maybe. You see the limitations in what was being bantied about recently: specific aged, specific sized. And my concern about it is much like yours, though, in that what does it then say to all the other things that I think create a better quality of life overall? Because if all I have to do is take a pill, and we see this on the human side quite a bit, if all I got to do is take a pill and I can eat anything I want, drink anything I want, never exercise, all the rest of that, but I look like, what I, see on magazine covers and all the rest of that, am I going to put forth the effort and am I going to have that experience that I would have if I was doing the healthier things? I'm all for, I'm a huge supplement guy. And when farmers needed to correct something, okay, but hopefully it's not a forever instance. It's a get you back on track so that you can get off of that as fast as possible. And I that's what I worry about on the animal side of things, because I think all too often, as you pointed out, it's give me this pill for that. Oh, we're having this issue. And that's that slippery slope that also concerns me. It's like, well, we got this one, which will extend life. And then we've got this one for your cat who isn't, hitting the litter box properly. And then we've got this one, and then we've got that one. So you never have to take your dog on those nice, beautiful long walks for them to enjoy P-mail and actual sunshine and all the rest of that. I think back to our grounding episode, where they get naturally grounded instead of like me sometimes with all the cords. But I'm I love the idea of it because when I lost my soul dog, um, I say she knew I would have spent everything I had and everybody else that I knew had to keep her around for another week, let alone 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever these things end up being able to extend. Um, but it would not be how I would approach. Well, this is how I'm going to get it, because that's the other part of this that throws me. Well, you're going to get more time. More time based on what? We don't have a finite date stamp. This isn't like a, milk carton that
Well,
says,
that it's
right,
like, can you tell me my dog is going to live to 15 and you're going to give me to 16?
sure,
And what are the mitigating circumstances? Does the dog, it appears to me that you would have a very narrow window of the perfect animal from a health uh, factor, that would fit into that, because you can't have an animal that's got cancer. You can't have an animal that's predisposed to XYZ. You can't have, has to be between this age and that age. And again, what a dream come true for pharma, because can't
right,
tell you, I mean, how much longer. I deal with that in my group all the time where people are like, I just want to give them as much time as possible. And they beat themselves up because their dog passed away at 16 or 17. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your dog lived to 16 or 17. Think about that.
right,
None of us knows what that magic number is going to be. I mean, you have people who drink and smoke and do drugs, and oh my gosh, look at rock and rollers. Those people should be dead by the time they're 35, and you look at the Rolling Stones, who pretty much look like they're already dead, but they're doing great. They probably take that pill. But they're doing great. And, Mick Jagger still has it on stage and all of that kind of stuff. More power to them, but you don't know what that's going to be. There are athletes who drop dead, at 40, who did everything the right way, and they have, an amazing physique, and they ran 5 miles a day, and they ate right, and they did everything just like they should have. So I don't see that this is anything more than preying upon people's heartstrings. I really don't. I hate everything about it. And I consider it a cheat, because it will maximize the laziness of humans. And I don't mean it like, you know, the average pet parent. I don't mean that to sound like they're not willing to do what they need to do by their dog. But if you could take a pill, by the way, there's a pill for the litter box thing already. If you could take a pill and not have to do those things, not have to worry about it, or have the attitude. Do you remember when oh my gosh, do you remember when cloning was such a
oh yeah,
big deal? Okay, and the
yeah,
people who paid a lot of money to clone their animals, I had an issue with that too, because I'm like, well, you are some of your life experiences, so you can't actually clone. Oh no, they're exactly the same. No, they're not. They're not living the same life that your dog lived or your animal lived. But there are far too many potential um, issues of, well, hopefully when he gets around 10 or 11, I'll just start giving him that pill,
Right.
and that'll extend his life. How do you know that?
Right.
You
Well,
know,
and I'm sure they would argue, well, that's why we're doing the studies, and that's why we've got the control side versus the placebo side,
is it
and
going to be more than
we're
12
gonna.
dogs for 3 months, which is how most studies for animals go?
I don't want to, again, I don't want to make it about any one particular one, but what I will say is, yes, they at least are doing more than 12 dogs, more than the 25 dog studies that we often see.
Yeah.
I read it's a fair amount, but to your point, also we've got breed issues, we've got breeding issues, and then well, then we're going to have to really identify and get into the DNA and does your there's so many things to get this
So
right,
many.
and that's that hard, and that's the heartstrings part too, right? I mean, you and I both know so many people um who went through the, and I don't want to call it the raw craze, but you and I were around before it was, as prevalent as it is today. And we saw these just wonderful people, these innovators, these, very passionate people get behind it. Some of them doing it perfectly, right for, their animal, and others claiming it was perfect. And oh, yeah, it turned out not to be. And the devastation that we saw when their pets went earlier, and the blame and that heartache and that, like, wait a second, and then all the people who were listening to them as well about, well, this is the right way, this is the path. That's, I agree with you, I worry about that because it's like, oh, okay, I can lay back a little bit and then not worry until they hit 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 year, whatever it is. And also too, like, think about that. It just like popped into my head as I was just blathering on. I apologize, everybody, but now what your breeders are going to be breeding to, and this dog or this cat or this whatever qualifies under the extended life program. I love that, by the way. That's trademark that real quick before we post this. But yeah, it is so wide reaching and far ranging that while I love the idea, and I am definitely like every other pet parent, fanatical and would give so much to have extra time, but it's that quality of time as well. And I
That
love that you brought up the cloning because that you hit it on the nail. I talked to those people when that was first coming out, and and I decided not to engage on that. And but I will tell you, I was really, I mean, Sugar was my everything, my soul dog, my best friend. I learned, pathetic, poor attempts at dog sign language for this dog because that wasn't really a thing back then. So we were intrinsically connected. And the thought of, whoa, would I really struggled with that. And I think a lot of people will
mhm.
struggle with this. What I came back to was what you said, though, which was it may look like her, it may even have some of her mannerisms, but it is not her.
Mhm.
That is the beauty of each being that comes into our lives.
And the connection's not the same. You have to read,
Right,
the dog isn't born with the connection that the last dog that they were cloned from is
right.
born with. So,
Well, I do
it,
think I will say this though, as someone who likes to think about past life experiences, I will say there is sometimes in the DNA, um, and that's why
there are markers. Yes,
yeah, we see the markers where animals return to certain spots to lay their eggs that they've never been to.
sure.
That's they mate and all that. So there is some of that, but am I going to bank on that while emptying my bank?
Literally, you're
And
going to
plus,
bank on that.
yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, to your point, it was like those. I don't want Sugar to go through those experiences again.
Right.
That created that deep bond. And how often do we hear that even in human lives? Like that struggle, those experiences made me the person I am today, which creates those bonds that they have with the other special people in their life.
Right.
And
Good, bad, or indifferent.
yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
part of it. So no, it's so interesting though, and I think you and I have touched on so many things of where we getting out ahead of technology sometimes and development of, do we really need this? Or is this just, snake oil potions being sold to us again?
Well, let's
And,
look at let's look at pharma's track record in general. They develop one thing based on, a factor of a majority of humans, and that's what they run with. And then somebody else, another company will come along and they'll tweak it a little bit because there's this other, set of humans that had this pop up over the years of using product A. And so they're going to tweak it so product B can compete and also might be a better answer. They're looking at mass treatment. They're not looking at specific treatment. And that's my issue with Big Pharma. As somebody who is allergic to everything, that is drug related, I mean, just everything, it's like I don't fit anybody's markers. So, it's a science project when I go into the doctor and I'm sick and he wants to give me an antibiotic. He's like, crap, and he's gotta dig through and find something that hopefully I won't have a negative reaction to. My heart dog, who I could not have given, I know eye rolling will come when I say this from a lot of people. I couldn't have given birth to this dog and loved her more. And she was my, I have had other heart animals. She is the, she was the creme de la creme of heart animals. And she passed away at 18 on my chest at home, and it was ugly. It was an ugly, she went quickly, but it was ugly. And I wish she'd have lived to 21, but she
sure.
wasn't that dog. She was this dog. I know that she got to, and I made mistakes early on, just like everybody. We all make mistakes until we know better. I made a lot of mistakes, but when it was all said and done, I could look back and know that a couple of things. One, trying to extend her life at where she was at 18 years of age would have been an injustice to her, because it was her time. And I
Mm,
could see her time coming, even though she wasn't there. It wasn't the kind of thing that I could see I needed to help her through that, with assistance. Um, but I also knew that I did everything for her that I possibly could. She is the reason that I dug into everything at the levels that I did. She's the reason for the courses and classes and schooling and education and everything that I went through. She's the reason that so many of my clients benefited and my other dogs benefited, because as I learned things, I was like, "Oh, this is what I found out, and this is something that might be helpful to you." And of course there's layers and depth to all of that, and she's the reason for 18 years that
right.
I got to where, I mean, she was around almost as long as my store.
Mm,
So she's the reason that everything happened. She was a life-changing dog. But and I think about her every day, but it was her time to go. And I worry about the damage that we do, and what are we extending? Are we extending quality of life? Or are we just extending life?
yeah. Well, and I'll just say from my standpoint, it's like everything else. It's a mixed bag, right? Because there are a
Right.
lot of good things that pharma does. I know that will upset a lot of you out there, but I've seen
I'm
it in,
upset.
yeah, I've seen it in the human world. I've seen it in the pet world. Um, there are very few absolutes, and that's the problem. Is one being might benefit, and it might be life changing for them, but the other 20, it's not. And I think that's that balance that just can't be struck by any company, any pharma, any even pet parent. We're all just trying to do our best. And so, from my standpoint, I'm not going to judge any of these things that if folks decide to do it. Um, I would say it's like everything else that's put in front of us these days. You got to do your research. You got to dive deep. You got to look at your particular animal that you're considering it for. and then make a decision and be fine with that decision. Because I watch people do it on even less important things, right on down to the collar and the leash they, argue about
Right.
incessantly. So, you know, um, to me, boy, I wish there was a magic pill. I just don't know that I
I
could trust it
I
until
think that pills now, you know, there was a time when medicine um, was trying to be helpful, was trying to eradicate, or was trying to get people, from point A to point B, and then the medicine was supposed to stop. It was, I mean, that's like, you know, if you look at how veterinary diets were originally created, they were to get an animal through something, and then when the animal got through it, they were supposed to be able to return to their normal lives. And that got lost in, the bottom line. That became a very quick path to, a side income or a main income, depending. And people lost sight of that. The pills now, they are there because humans are so flawed and our diets are so flawed and our lack of exercise and the just who we have become as a species, where we aren't willing to put the work in. And I'm like that too. I mean, just it's so hard oftentimes, and it's time consuming. So that enters into it. So, you all of a sudden have an issue, you go to the doctor and he goes, "Oh, you have whatever choose from the following list." And they give you a pill for that, and that helps to regulate, right? And then a year or two later, you have another issue, and they don't look at the drug that they gave you as being interrelated to that potential second issue, or the fact that you haven't changed your diet, haven't changed your habits, haven't changed your exercising, haven't done any of those things, and now you're on another pill. And you can look at any movie or go into any um, senior care area, and you see how many pills people take. My in-laws had a bank of pills on their nightstands, of what they went through. And I was like, oh, none of that's good, and I'm not saying that there aren't things that are necessary, but we have lost sight of this is an interim thing for you to course correct. And then once you have course corrected, you should be able to get off of that, instead of having it lead to the next pill, the next pill, the next pill, the next pill. And then we just have a sick population. Are we going to do that to our animals? Because we're doing that to our animals instead of doing the right thing by them. And this pill, Extendo Life, is on that course to that same thing. So we'll have to agree to disagree.
Well, I should put you down on the maybe but probably never list, and
Oh no, never, maybe, never,
never
never.
maybe. I'm going to put myself down on the. I know my weaknesses, and my pets are absolutely my weaknesses, so I'm always open. Uh, but what about all of you? What do you think about this? Let us know. Not let us know who you agree with. I get it. Lauren's always right. Rob is sometimes entertaining. But share your story, share your thoughts, how you would approach it. That's why we're building these communities, right?
And
So,
look for Rob's upcoming, offer of Extendo Life at $49.99. I
exactly. If
won't
we
be
get that
endorsing it, but
trademark.
Rob may put it
Yeah,
out.
I'm certainly open to endorsing that. Extend the life. I love it. But hey, reach out to us, practicalpetchat@gmail.com. You can find us on all of your favorite social media channels. Keep listening to us, keep sharing the videos, sharing the audio. We really appreciate this. We're doing it with you. This episode came because so many of you reached out about, hey, what do you think? Have you seen this? You're driving this. That's why we're doing it. We appreciate you. Thanks for joining us again here on Practical Pet Chat.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.